I teach ethics at the master's and doctorate level, and when we talk about ethics, we talk about whether, if it's legal, is it ethical? If it's ethical, is it legal? Because there's a lot of gray area in that, because certainly Jim Crow laws were legal. Slavery was legal. Boarding schools were legal. But were they ethical? And there's still laws on the books that could be questioned as far as, you know, the ethics involved behind the law. And so in thinking about that, I show students the trajectory of education from about the 50s to 80s. And we talk about how things like those children that walked in that alleyway towards a school, those black children, those little second and third grade children that walked as parents and students and National Guard, everybody is screaming at them. And I ask my students today, would you send your second grade child in that kind of an environment just to go to school? Imagine the moral courage of people at that time, of that generation of African American people who thought of education so strongly that they would send their 7-year-old in that environment. In regard to the boarding schools, there's a number of interviews, of course, that have been done, that have been recorded and are available, and so I show them these interviews. And many of them had no idea of what really a boarding school was all about and what that meant. And I said, this is exactly what it means. We're going to your home today, and we're going to take your 5-year-old and your 6-year-old and your 7-year-old. And you will not see these children again until they are seniors, if not maybe just their remains. And they are not going to be able to speak English anymore. They're not going to be able to practice in their Catholic, Lutheran, or Protestant faith. They are going to be stripped of everything that they know, and you have no say over it. And they'll be returned to you in the end, whatever's left. And they look at me like I'm insane, and I said, this is exactly what happened. And so when you recognize that that whole population, those generations of students who were held to that type of educational philosophy, if you will, federal philosophy, came back, had no language, had no religion, had no self-identity, is it any wonder that their society unraveled? Now we have individuals who don't know who they are. They don't know how to parent because they weren't parented. They were institutionalized. You know, nothing at home that they're supposed to know is anywhere near familiar. So the reason why we talk about this is because when you have that Native face in your classroom today, in 2019, you have to understand all that's gone on prior to that. And so you can't prejudge. You have to just understand where they are today. It's really important. And so my undergraduate students look at me like they have no conceived notion of what that means or looks like. And I always tell them, because I'm at the University of Mary, I said, this is happening just at the bottom of this hill. This is not on the reservation. This is happening right here in town. So helping them broaden their perspective on all cultures. And we have a number of cultures, but certainly our biggest minority group here in our state is our Native tribes. And their personal trauma is not always received well. And that is just, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of deep reflection of these students. And they need to see I think our undergraduates particularly need to see some of the horrors that happen for them to truly understand, because they have no concept. They're only 20. You know, their worldview is very narrow at that point. So then we go in there, even though the class is classroom management, it involves ethics, it involves multiculturalism. It involves caring. And that's the bottom line here. You know, what we need to do is care. And our profession is, surely it's instruction, and we all get that. But if we don't care about the student first, there will be no instruction. You can speak until you can't speak anymore, but if you don't care, if the student does not perceive that you care about them and who they are, then you're simply going through the motions for 180 days. You know, so I don't know.